Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Canadian jazz guitarist and composer Alvaro Rojas. We talked to him about releasing his latest 2020 CD, Gran Kasa, during a pandemic and how COVID-19 has affected his life. He is an award-winning guitarist and composer based in Vancouver, British Columbia. And when things were going, he did perform regularly with his trio, along with local artists, in the pop, rock, jazz, and improvised music communities. He's got a great story. Enjoy.
Good. Hey, thanks for taking a minute for Neon Jazz.
Oh, man, thanks for calling, and thanks for the interest.
You bet, man. So let's dive right in here, and you have an album that's coming out during a pandemic. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that happening?
Well, I mean, obviously the timing is not ideal, but this album was recorded a couple of years ago, and it was just been sort of chipping away at it for a long time. And you know, you have your release date set, and everything is. I mean, it takes a while to release a record, and you want to do all the appropriate promo and all the steps to release it on time. And a lot of these things were in motion before the pandemic started, and it's like, okay, well, it's got to come out sometime, right? So I try to think of it as you know, there's going to be more people at home, more people looking for something to do. So maybe it's a positive in that way. But obviously, you know, we were going to have a CD release show and all that stuff, and that's all been canceled or postponed. So definitely a weird time, you know, for anything.
How are you surviving this pandemic? What have you been doing creatively? I know everything's on hold and we don't even know when it's going to end. So how has all of this been going?
Well, I mean, it started off, and I mean, I've got two kids, so it's been nice to just have some family time. You know, a lot of people have said that. And I was working from home for a while. And in terms of creativity, I mean, I've actually done a lot more just online collaborations with friends, mostly just kind of just for fun and just for experimentation, you know, just sending tracks around. I've gotten, I've started using Ableton and trying to get my electronic chops happening a bit more. I've started writing another album as well, basically an album of solo guitar music that I sort of had half finished, and that's pretty much all written now, and I'm just recording it at home. So, you know, always lots of ideas, right? And, you know, writing grants and things like that, just more boring logistical side of things. But, you know, always lots to do creatively, always lots of music to write, you know, reading books and just learning, trying to stay motivated, trying to not think about, like, all the gigs that you're not playing.
Yeah, right. So you're based in Vancouver. Talk to me a little bit about your beginnings, where you were born and raised, and how music became your life.
Yeah, my family's from Peru, and we moved here to Canada when I was about 4 years old and grew up in a suburb of Vancouver. Right away, I just, you know, gravitated. I think my dad gave me a cassette player and a bunch of tapes, and I just loved it right away, and would just listen to stuff over and over again. You know, fast forward to high school, all I'm doing is playing guitar. I started playing guitar when I was 13, just totally obsessed with it. Mostly like, you know, grunge at the time and metal, and then I sort of, when I got to grade 12, I realized, okay, well, if I want to study music, I can either go learn classical guitar or I can go to jazz school. They didn't really have a jazz band at my high school, so I wasn't really exposed to that. From there, I went to music school and met a lot of the people that I still work with all the time, and a lot of those relationships, and just kept broadening the world of music, you know, arranging, writing for different ensembles, meeting different people. It just keeps growing, right?
Yeah. So what were the first jazz albums you listened to that really got you involved with loving jazz?
I think that, I mean, the first ones that, like, I had somebody tell me, okay, if you want to get into jazz, if you want to listen to jazz, you know, they gave me, like, Kinda Blue, and I think I Love Supreme, and Blue Train, and just, like, some real staples. And, you know, it's easy to, you know, that's kind of what most people recommend to somebody who's a newcomer to jazz, you know, because they're just, they're great jumping off points for a lot of things. So those were some of the first ones that I got into, but I mean, I really got exposed to like jazz fusion stuff before that, like Mahavishnu Orchestra and Weather Report and Frank Zappa. So there was always a little bit of like improvised music, you know, people that had been influenced by more traditional jazz. But once I got into Miles and Coltrane, it was pretty much kind of game on. And then, by that point I was going to university, so there's the whole library there, and just learning about Mingus and Duke Ellington and Monk and Bill Evans and everything like that. Those are some of my favorite artists that I kind of gravitated towards initially.
What do you like the best about being a musician?
Probably music. I mean, I think when I look back at my life, and just some of the most exciting moments of pure pleasure have been playing music, either on a gig or at a rehearsal where, we're playing or working on something or improvising, and all of a sudden you just reach a place and everybody in the room is just about to burst out laughing because it just sounds so incredible, and the feeling is just such a rush. And, there's no high like that, and you're just chasing that basically for the rest of your life. Or when you're writing something and all the pieces just come together, something you kind of had an idea here, and then another idea here, and you're just sort of trying to figure out the puzzle, and then all of a sudden it all clicks together. Same thing, those are the moments that I really live for, and it's all about just getting there. And I mean, all the friends and all the people that I've met and all the opportunities that I've had just for, getting to travel a little bit and just getting to meet wonderful people. That's it. It's great. It doesn't pay that well sometimes, but it's great.
What do you hope? This is a very long-awaited album, a lot of great players on it, and I know you're excited to release it. Talk to me a little about what you hope the audience or the fans that buy this get from this album and this experience.
I mean, this album, I was kind of like just trying to be as Alvaro as I could be, basically, So there's a lot of different little styles and little areas that get touched on here, and I hope that people take this as an introduction to my work and just sort of as an overview, and that they can see that there's all these different areas, but they're all coming from a unified concept of harmony and melody and rhythm, and that this is really just the beginning of the journey, and that all of these different elements are going to be explored more as we go down the road and as we go into the future. I hope that people hear joy in this music, because that's really what I felt and like what everybody in the band felt when we're making this music. It's like just joy and excitement. And that's, kind of what I was saying when you asked me the last question, like that, just chasing that feeling of just joy and thrill. That's what I want people to hear.
So when COVID is over and we get back to live music, you get on the stage and the audience gets into the crowd, what do you hope that we realize about this time away from live music?
Well, I hope they realize that they need it, that everybody needs it, and just how special it is to be, in a live performance of any kind, whether it's music or theater or even sports, anything, just where there's people actually connecting. There's so much more to human interaction than, words on a page or a face on the screen. It's like you need that physical presence. And especially when you're talking about music and sound, like just to be in the room and to hear those sounds swirling all around you and mixing in with the environment. And, even, if you're, I'm playing rock bands too, and, being in a live rock show and bumping up against some sweaty guy, and just all those feelings and all those smells, we need them as human beings. That's what feeds your soul. And I hope that people realize how valuable it is not to take it for granted when it comes back.
Yeah, that's a great answer, man. Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're the one living your life. Who do you think you are?
Oh, man. I'm just the guy trying to take it one day at a time and trying to, catch some big fish. I feel like my life is just always just setting up these little tiny goals, and just trying to, when I started school, I was like, okay, I'd never be able to write a big band arrangement. Like, how do they even know what all these notes are, what all these instruments do? And then a couple years down the road, you're doing it. I never thought I could write a string quartet. It's impossible, you know? Then a couple of years later you do it. So I think that I'm just trying to find myself, just like anybody else is, just through all these challenges, you know? You think of something you want to do and you just find some way to break it down and break the big thing down into smaller steps to do those things. What better way to discover your identity than through action, right? I mean, you can sit and journal and ruminate on it for forever and ever, but really I think it's the actions that, you know, tell you who you are.
That's a great answer, man. That's a great triumphant way to wrap everything up. Hey, thank you for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz. Good luck with the album. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Canada, America, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Alvaro for his time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.